So, as an introduction to the idea of playing games on Shabbat, the next three halachot concern that. We already talked a little bit about ball games outside in a field where there might be the to'ada of choresh, of plowing, or other kinds of damage that is done. But just in general, before we go into it, Rabbi Melamed has a very strict opinion about what children should be doing on Shabbat. He has 11 children and I don't know how many grandchildren. Um, but so just to say that as an introduction, his opinion is not mine and definitely not the way my parents raised us. So I'll just say some positive things that my parents taught us by playing games with us on Shabbat, even card games. And first of all, they taught us not to be a poor loser. Second of all, it's just a game, so don't treat it like it's life and death. It's not so serious. And whatever the outcome is, it's just an outcome. Actually, there's a new show on TV now called Switch. And one of the things that bothers me the most about what the host says is, if you know the answer to this question, you are safe. What's safety got to do with playing a game? And it's supposedly a game of knowledge of what do you know, what do you don't know. The third thing was that they spent time with us, and I think that that was a very good bounding experience. And since we were in yeshiva, especially the boys, all week, and even 2 out of 3 Shabbatot, it would have been pretty awful if our parents tried to make us to go to a Torah class instead of relaxing and clearing your head a little bit for the coming 2 or 3 weeks until we see them again. Um, so that's another thing that they definitely wanted us to understand. Also, a lot of our friends were living in houses where they did not respect Shabbat the way that our parents did, and so if they could keep us at home and even invite some of these friends over, they would be able to keep Shabbat properly, but not studying Torah, just playing games and having fun. And last but not least, we learned a little bit about not reading a newspaper on Shabbat because of things that might upset us or business opportunities or stuff like that. And so anything is better than reading a newspaper on Shabbat afternoon. When my parents bought certain magazines, they were kept in the bathroom. That way, if you're bored in the bathroom and you can't learn Torah, then at least you can read that. And again, it's much better to play games than to read newspaper and truly waste your time. So. With that introduction, let's see what Rav Melamed says. It is a mitzvah to educate children to study a great deal of Torah on Shabbat. It is thus proper to teach them to minimize game playing so that they will not get used to wasting the precious and holy time of Shabbat on mundane activities. The closer they get to the age of bar and bat mitzvah, the more they should be encouraged to study Torah more and play games less. It is good for the parents themselves to learn with their children, thus fulfilling the mitzvah of teach them to your children. It is proper for each community to offer many Torah classes for children on Shabbat. So when I lived in Petach Tikva for about a year and a half, this was a class only for boys. The teacher is one of the Baal Koreh in the shul there, Sephardi shul, and so he would have all the children that are maybe from 10 to 13 come and practice the reading. And we had all the vowels and all the ta'amim, and so it was just correcting us on specific dikduk. I'm not sure if it's called grammar in English or not, but basically you have to know what the difference between ashva nach and ashva na and kamatz and patach, etc. So that was there, but and then he would always give us popsicles in the winter, in the summer, sorry, and crembo in the winter. I don't think they have such a thing as crembo in North America. It's basically a biscuit that's covered with whipped cream and a little bit of chocolate. and so that's what he always provided to us. But I'm not sure if there was anything for the girls. Nevertheless, children may play on Shabbat. Therefore, the laws detailed in the following paragraphs apply to all children who are under bar bat mitzvah age. However, for adults, the laws are different. First of all, lechatchila, it is preferable to follow the opinion that adults may not play any games on Shabbat. Second, even according to those who allow adults to play games on Shabbat, some games are problematic. For children who are obligated to keep Shabbat only as training for adulthood, we are lenient. For adults who are required to keep Shabbat by Torah law, we are more stringent. Below we will explain the laws for minors. When adults need to be stringent, even according to the lenient position that allows them to play games, we will say so explicitly in order to make it all-inclusive. So one may play checkers, chess, and memory games on Shabbat. One may also play with dice and spinning tops. He's not talking about playing dice like they used to in the ancient times, where it was a game of chance and somebody who played with dice during the week was actually not kosher to be a witness in a Jewish court because they were relying on what's called a smachta. They were hoping to win money from this game, and it's only a game of chance, and therefore it's forbidden. He's not talking about that. He's talking, let's for Monopoly and stuff like that, or backgammon, where we play with dice, um, but not um, but not ones that are for money, obviously. However, one may not play any game in which the winner is awarded money or food. It is also forbidden to play games that normally involve writing. I don't know if I ever told you, but when we were playing card games and we had to count the points, my mother would have two or three very thick novels and just turn the page to that page to calculate the points. And so again, it's finding a proper loophole in order to encourage everybody to spend time together. Some maintain that it is preferable not to play Monopoly or other games in which people win money and property. We talked about how Monopoly is not real dollars, so you can just change the name, even though it is not real money. Children who wish to be lenient about this may, but adults should be stringent. Also, the game of Risk has dice and a few others. I'm not sure if I know all of this, but basically, that's the idea, um, and so Monopoly, as long as you make sure that you don't say dollars, is I think okay. That's how our parents brought us up. All games that involve writing, pasting, cutting, or weaving are forbidden on Shabbat, even for minors. However, minors may put together a jigsaw puzzle or form words by joining letters on a board. Even though adults must be stringent in these two cases, children may rely on those who are lenient. According to this opinion, there is no violation of kotev, since all the writing was already there, and the letters and puzzle pieces are simply being moved together temporarily. And again, there are rabbis who allow to do puzzles on Shabbat. I know many people who are Shomer Shabbos. One may not build model planes or boats out of plastic parts or wood if they require a great deal of precision and are meant to last for a long time, because that's like bonnet, it's comparable. Children may play with interlocking blocks, build with them, and take apart what they have built, so Lego. Children may also make paper planes or boats, however, it is proper for adults to be stringent and not do so. The sages forbade making a temporary tent on Shabbat, but this is permissible if it is erected in a different order than from usual. Therefore, children may not drape a blanket over chairs in order to create a tent to play in. However, this is permissible if they hold the blanket horizontally in the air and afterward place chairs underneath. Because that's not the way you build. You build first the walls and then you put the roof. That's the law also for sukkah, by the way. So it's amazing connection. It is also forbidden to use interlocking blocks to build a house or garage whose inside area is a square tefach or more, so approximately 3.5 inches. But if they start by holding the roof up and then attach the walls from underneath, it is permissible, as we saw above in chapter 15. One may use a kit to make jewelry that is not made to last on condition that the end of the thread is not tied with a regular knot, but rather with a bow knot. So to play with what's called custom jewelry and just pretend to be making a necklace and then at the end we take it apart, that is allowed. One may not sort playing pieces or cards of two games that got mixed up together as it constitutes borer, separating. However, if people want to play one of the games, they may remove the pieces they need from the mix. This sorting is not considered derech melacha, but rather derech mischak, the normal way to play, because one normally begins such a game by taking out its pieces. So one of the games that our parents taught us is called Klavish. I think it's originally from Finland. It's very similar to euchre, where you play with only certain cards up. So with Klavish, I believe it was from 7 up until ace. And with euchre, I think it's from 10 up. So it's very similar. So again, you're allowed to take the cards that you do want for the game, and then that way you're not doing border, you're actually taking for what you will immediately use. And last, one may not make shapes out of Play-Doh or modeling clay, what's called plastilina in Hebrew. I'm not sure why it's called that, but it's maybe the French name, as it constitutes memareach. If one makes shapes that have meaning, it also constitutes kotev. Therefore, Play-Doh and modeling clay are muktzeh. And I'll just say that if, back to what we said before about if a child that is really not of Gil Chinuch, 4 or 5 year old, and they want to play with Play-Doh, it is not necessary to take it away from them because they don't even write or do any of the real melacha. They're just playing with it. So again, I'm not a posek, but I think that that's the appropriate approach.